Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to dive into a video kind of discussing some of the new items and giving my overall thoughts about the 10 new items that we got. So I'm in the practice mode so I can see the items and their recipe. Otherwise I would have to have like the item section open because you can't see the recipe in the main game. Oh, meta, fix that. That'd be nice to be able to see the recipe. And annoying enough, I picked Iggy. So you're just going to hear Scorch rumbling around in the background. So drop a like on the video for that. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the items. So first on the list, if we're filtering up here at the top, we have the Onyxian quiver. The Onyxian quiver, I'm just going to recap on all of these items. 2,900 gold, 40% attack speed, 25% crit. So no power on this item. Multi-shot, ranged heroes fire 2 additional projectiles, each dealing physical damage equal to 12 to 36% of your total physical power. Multi-shot deals more damage to far away targets, can critically strike and lifesteal. Damage to monsters is capped at 12%. Basic attacks deal 20 bonus physical damage on hit, so it does have some on-hit damage. And let's actually look at the recipe there. And Onyxia, melee heroes gain 2% attack speed and 1 damage mitigation for every 10% missing health. I don't play a lot of carry, so I have to admittedly say that I don't think this is a great item, but I don't think it's the worst item that they could make. Now, that said, for the melee passive, for Onyxia, I don't really see myself putting this on anybody. I thought about maybe dabbling with this on Sereth a little bit, but I just don't really see it. I don't really think that she needs just like crazy amounts of attack speed and, you know, like the damage mitigation. Sounds like it's nice, but it would just be like crazy attack speed, and that could be pretty good. But I don't think that I would build this on Sereth. So I look at this item and I think it's like okay. And that's kind of the theme of a lot of these items. They're like 6-slot items or 4-fun items, and I don't really think that most of them will hit core builds. But I would love to hear Carrie's player's opinion on this, because the thing is you can't just look at the items and say, oh, is that good? You have to look at it compared to every other item in the game. So I think that this is an okay, like, for fun item. I don't think we'll see much of it competitively, or just like at high MMR games unless they're just testing. But that would be my hypothesis personally. I just don't think we're going to see a ton of this item. So yeah, that's my thought. I think it's okay. Probably more for fun than anything. All right, next we have the Orb of Growth, which turns into whatever the other name is. 55 magic power. Let's look at the recipe. Yeah, Orb of Enlightenment. So 55 magic power. I guess I'll look at it like this. 250 health, 200 mana, 5 ability haste, inner growth, killing enemy minions and monsters gain 6 bonus XP, takedowns grant 42 bonus XP, upon gaining 500 bonus XP, return to base to evolve this item into Orb of Enlightenment, and then casting an ability restores 4% missing health. So Orb of Enlightenment is for each hero level gain 2 magical power, 10 health, 20 mana, and 1 ability haste. I really like this item. I think that it's a nice scaling item. It is a little slow, but the recipe is good, and that's the other thing we have to talk about when it comes to these items. Like the recipe, building this codex up into chaotic core, like it's a fine recipe. So I think on the right characters, if you're looking to play a little bit slower too, you can really scale this item. I think it's solid. I think this is like probably one of like 3, maybe 4 of the new items that I think is really, really good, like are actually good and like maybe worth buying. So I definitely like this item at 2,900. It's going to bring you a lot of stats. It's also like a magic power and health item, which usually I feel like you have to sacrifice a lot to get a magic power health item. You know, like if you're buying Lifebinder, that's like, you know, pen that you're not buying. So it can kind of go into like a nice magic power like damage build, but it could also go into like a magic power health kind of build as well. So, you know, you have some of these other magic power health items that, you know, you usually can kind of like stack up and make like a more, you know, effective HP focused build. Use that with World Breaker if you want to do something like that. So like Bruiser Iggy or like Bruiser Shinbi, things like that where you're actually stacking a little bit of HP. Or you can just build this first, have a little bit of extra health because it scales, you know, brings you some extra health and a little bit of healing, and then go into like full damage. So I think it's a pretty good item. I think this item paired with like Megacosm as like your first 2 buys, pretty solid. So that's my thoughts. Spirit of Amir, 2,900 gold, 75 magic power, 6% magic lifesteal, 15 ability haste, 3% movement speed. Natural selection. While in the jungle, gain 6% magical lifesteal. While out of the jungle, gain 8% increased magical power. Blessing of a Mirror. Killing an enemy unit restores 2% of missing mana, increase to 20% for enemy heroes. I think this item is probably one of the best ones that's coming out of this patch for sure. The recipe is solid. Super, super nice recipe, meaning you can build like any section of it pretty easily. 2,900 gold, lots of power, man. 75 magic power, and then you get the 8% increased magic power when you're not in the jungle. So here's the thing. If you're not in the jungle, then you're in the lane, and when you step into the fog walls, you're in the jungle. So you can use this as a laner. I think you can use this as like a magic power jungler. I think this item's really, really good. Like really, really good. And then it has like percent movement speed on it, so it's just really, really good. I think I'll probably be building this first on some magic junglers, like maybe like Countess, because the recipe, like I said, is solid. You could build this into Megacosm. If you're not doing something like Orb of Enlightenment, then you could do something like this. So I think this item's pretty solid. I don't know how much the laners will build it immediately, but it's just got good stats on it. 15 ability haste and then 8% increased magical power. I think it's pretty solid. So maybe would be in a different spot if you're playing in lane, but I just think that this is a really solid item regardless. Like I said, to me, probably one of the better items in the new selection of items. All right, so we have our new support items. Wind Caller. I'm going to read it, but I don't think this item is good, and we'll see. The recipe's pretty decent, 2650, support item cost, and we have 35 magic power, 175 health, 15 ability haste, 10 heal and shield power, and then renewing strikes. Basic attacks restore 1% of missing mana, doubled against heroes, and Zephyr, healing or shielding an ally grants you both 10% bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds. Like, this is maybe a Muriel, like, attack speed support item. Maybe, and even then, it's like I don't really think you build attack speed on Muriel, but you get the point. Like I don't really think this is a good item. I mean, you could build this on Narbash, but then it doesn't have any mana on it. And I just think as like the healing and shielding items go, it's like it's the one that's trying to cover the movement speed niche, right? Whereas, it doesn't have mana on it. So like Crystal Tear has like a mana on it. What's the other one that people like? Wellspring has mana on it. This one doesn't. Requiem doesn't have mana on it, but you get my point. I think it's like a really niche, really niche item. Maybe it's okay. I think it's probably one of the weaker items to come out of the most recent patch with new items. But it's there, right? Potentially increase movement speed and whatnot. So something to think about. Frosted Lure. This item, similar issue, 2,700 gold, 325 health, 30 physical armor, 15 ability haste. Frost Wave. Stand near enemy heroes for 4 seconds to unleash a pulse of energy, dealing true damage to all nearby enemy heroes based on your maximum health, slowing them by 40% for 1.5 seconds. Icy Guard. Frost Wave shields you for 120% of the damage dealt for 4 seconds. This item, I feel like it's super, super close to being good. It's gonna suffer the same thing where, like, as a support, you're just not gonna get much mana out of it. And I feel like this is a support tank item. Like, you could probably throw this on like Steel or Richter, or honestly maybe even Narbash, but then you're going to run into the problem, especially on someone like Narbash, where you're just not really getting much mana back. And the reality is, like, I feel like if you're playing one of those tanks as a support anyways, you could probably just build a better tank item. It would be more expensive, so maybe this item is like really good for like Steel Richter support, just because if you can get in, then you can get an extra like pretty big slow, because a 40% slow for 1.5 seconds, like that's a significant slow. So I think it's okay. I feel like it's really, really close to being very, very good, but at the cost, I think it's okay. So I don't know, I've kind of like convinced myself that like maybe it's a little bit better than I thought, just because of the 40% slow. Honestly, that's the big one that does it. You're gonna do some damage to him, that's cool, but it's got some pretty low stats, right? It's got good haste, but it's got low armor because it's a support item, right? And it's low cost, but hey, it gives you a nice little shield. So it's a very like, I'm gonna go in, commit as a support. So yeah, and this can be used to peel too, I suppose. It just depends on whenever you stand next to a hero long enough for it to activate. So, all right, moving on. New tank items. Is it just the one item? I mean, we have reworked Elefrost, but I'm not going over that. I think it's just the Giant's Ring. Yeah, that's the only tank item technically. All right, Giant's Ring, 3,000 gold, 325 health, 60 physical armor, 10 ability haste, retribution. Basic attacks from enemy heroes reduce your current basic ability cooldowns by 0.25 seconds on a 0.5 second cooldown. Gigantism, upon casting your ultimate, gain 20% increased size, 8% damage mitigation, and double the effectiveness of retribution for 6 seconds. This item is absolutely meta. Very, very strong item. Can be used on bruisers like Crunch, can be used on a lot of very strong frontline tanks, basically all of them. You know, just depending on like what ults they use. I'm trying to think of any of the tanks are bad to use this on. Steel, Rampage, probably the top 2 to use this on. I think you could use this on Sevarog, but you might skip on Sevarog because of his ult, the nature of his ults. Richter, honestly, you can use this on Richter too. You just kind of run in, pop ult, you'll get big, and then have damage mitigation for anybody that's hitting you. But it might be a little less effective on Richter because technically, like let's say hypothetically you hit a 5-man ult, then nobody's hitting you for, you know what, 1 or 2 seconds. So maybe a little less viable on someone like Richter, but very heavily engaged tanks, really, really solid on. I think that this is probably in the top 2-3 items that have come from this patch. Very, very strong. Obviously, again, you know, with this filter, you can kind of see the relative gold cost. I think it's really, really good. Comes with really great stats. Comes with haste. A lot of haste because of the retribution passive. And then 8% damage mitigation. I think this is one of the best items that came out of the patch for sure. All right, let's look at the fighter items. We got Bone Seeker, 2,900 gold, no power, 30% attack speed, 300 health, 10 ability haste. Pursue. Basic attacks against enemy heroes marks them as your target and increase your damage dealt to them by 2% for 4 seconds. Additional basic attacks against them stack the effect up to 10 times. Changing targets resets your stacks. Swift strikes. Basic attacks deal 20 physical damage on hit and grant 3% bonus movement speed for 1.25 seconds. I think this item is only good on Chimera, and I think that this item is maybe like a niche kind of interesting item for carries. Yeah, it's kind of hard to be super committal to one target when you're a bruiser, like when you're a fighter, because, you know, targets flow like in and out and you have to just kind of keep up your damage and keep fighting and swinging. With Chimera, the reason why I think it's so good is because he can get this up to 6 stacks with like a normal auto and a Q basically instantly. So I think that he can get this damage ramp really, really efficiently. And while the attack speed isn't like amazing as a stat for Chimera, it's still useful at, you know, at all stages of the game. And then you get haste and health. So solid item for Chimera, and honestly even then it could probably be skipped, but I think it's a pretty solid item. I don't really care for it anybody else. I've been kind of testing it on Seraph. I played it a little bit on Grux. I'm not a huge fan of it just yet on them, but I think there's something there maybe. And with carries, thing is like with a carry, like maybe you'll only get like 3 shots off on somebody, but that's like 6% increased damage to them while increasing your movement speed, so, and giving yourself a little bit of haste and health. So I think that this could be like a niche interesting item to run on carries. I don't know that it would be a meta item on carries, but a part of me feels like it really could be, because sometimes there is a, you know, a section of the game where you're fighting on a carry and you know, you're just hitting whatever's right in front of you, and sometimes if that's a tank, that's all you can hit anyways, so you could build up that percentage and really start to shred them down. So I really think it just depends on the damage ramp, honestly. And so for Chimera, I think he can ramp that damage up pretty well. For carries, I think that they can kind of sit back and just kind of let the item work. That said, there is a trade-off. If you're not building this, or if you're building this, you're not building something else for a carry. So I'm a little reluctant to recommend it on carries. Berserker's Axe. Also the recipe, the worst thing about this item, sorry I had to touch on this, is that you don't really get a ton while you're building it. Like this item is like mostly valuable when it comes online because you get the passive, so like you have to build attack speed up and you have to build like health up, which building health up is fine on like someone like Chimera. Building attack speed is like okay because you can get this like 12 physical damage on hit, but building this recipe kind of sucks a little bit. Berserker's Axe, 30-50, 40 physical power, 350 health, 3% movement speed, blitz. Upon dashing or leaping on an enemy with an ability, your next basic attack within 3 seconds will deal bonus physical damage based on your bonus health and slow by 50% for 0.75 seconds. Basic attacks reduce blitz cooldown by 0.5 seconds on a 12-second cooldown. Mist Runner, passing through a fog wall grants you 20% bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds. This is another one of those items that's like, it's so close to being good, but it's like a 5th, 6th slot item. I mean, it's just not better than a lot of other fighter items. Like, it's got some good health. I love building movement speed because movement speed's like a pretty strong stat, but it just doesn't, I don't feel like it brings enough to the table. It's not Citadel that's going to bring you armor, damage, and drop their armor, right? Like, it doesn't do that. It's not Basilisk that's going to like shred their armor down while bringing you a ton of health, haste, and power. It's just like, it's a niche, like, you know, chase them down item that I don't think fits in many core builds, but it's a niche chase them down, right? Like, that's the thing. You can chase them, you can stick to them a little bit better with the slow, and you can get some increased movement speed for your ganks, but I just don't see myself putting this into any core build. But it does have a nice recipe. I do like the Stone of Strength as like a new mid-tier item. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that. All right, last section, we got a couple of items. We got Echelon's Cloak, 2850 gold, assassin item, 35 power, 15% attack speed, 200 health, 10 ability haste, Shadow Prowler, stand still, do not take damage for 2.5 seconds to become camouflaged. Moving 800 units from this location, casting an ability or receiving damage will end this effect. And then Unseen Threat, while camouflaged, regenerate 2% of your missing health and mana every second. Upon leaving camouflage, increase your damage dealt by 8% for 3 seconds. I think, unironically, this item is only good on Kalari. I think as a for fun item, you can build it on a lot of people and do some funny stuff. And even still on Kalari, I don't even think it's the best item. I just think it's kind of okay on her. But yeah, for fun item for sure. You know, the Teemo passive, if any of y'all are familiar with League of Legends, you stand still, you go invis, and then you kind of pop out and attack. But I don't really view this as like a very meta option. But it's definitely interesting, and I think that you can make some interesting plays with it. So, and the recipe's okay, right? You know, pretty standard items that you can build damage into. And last but not least, we have Envy at 3150, 40 physical power, 6 pen, physical pen, 200 mana, 10 ability haste, sacrificial strike. Upon dashing or leaping with an ability or exiting camouflage, your next basic attack within 3 seconds will critically strike. NVIDIA, critical strikes empower your abilities for the next 3 seconds to deal 10% bonus physical damage. I think that this item is not good. I think that it's like kind of okay, but like there are so many good like pen damage items, and you know, just getting like 1 free critical strike I don't think matters that much. I think that this item is like, I've seen it built on like Xeris. An allied tower. I've seen it built on Fangmao and Kalari. I've built it on Kalari. I just don't think it's that great. I think that there's a lot of other pen items and like assassin focused items that are probably just better. That's really my best thought on it. I don't really have much else about this one. It comes with a little bit of mana, so that's cool. But yeah, you get a free crit strike, and then, you know, having crit empowers your basic ability or your abilities for the next 3 seconds to deal 10% bonus physical damage. So like maybe you could build this on like Kira and have like, you know, this is where like the item gets like really interesting. Like maybe you could build this on like Twin Blast or Kira and do a crit build where, you know, you're like running people down and then you crit and you get, you know, 10% bonus physical damage on your abilities. But I don't even know if that is worth it. I don't know if that's worth it. So I think this is not one of the better items in the update. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it. So friends, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about these items. Some of them are good, some of them are just like for fun and they're just kind of there, but I would love to hear it. So drop a like on the video, subscribe for future Predecessor content. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for sure, because we're kind of ramping up and posting videos. Be sure to be kind to one another, tell someone you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.